social work department here at Saginaw Valley and the director of the NASW program. Students and their friends and family and some of our faculty are here, and we are very pleased to welcome those of you who have come from distance to our lovely campus. Hope you enjoy your visit here in our lovely space. This is always an event that our faculty enjoys, determining who is going to be honored. And I know that fellow faculty at other institutions feel the same way, because we look for qualities in our students to represent our profession, right? So this is our profession's honor of the students who are going through our programs right now. And so it's a little bit different than things that we might do for scholarships or for outstanding students in the department or for leadership awards. These are students who represent our profession and are either currently social workers or going to be social workers, and it's an exciting opportunity for us to talk about that. So we are glad that you are here. Welcome. Please make sure that you enjoy our refreshments, and we look forward to hearing more about those of you who are being honored here this evening. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. Hello. Just got an electric shock. You didn't know you were using a taser. So I want to welcome you all here. This is one of the things that the events that NASW takes great pride in, and I'm so happy for your memberships, and so happy to join you in these awards. So you're a social worker, or about to be a social worker. Would someone tell me why they went into this field? Passionate?
About helping.
About helping. Anyone else?
Love for people.
Love for people? What about animals? I'm an animal lover. Okay. Someone else?
The world is messed up right now.
Mark Giesler just said the world is messed up right now. Interesting, that's one of the reasons I went into social work, and that was a long time ago, so the world's been messed up for a while. So I have this theory that social workers are born, not people who make a decision, I'm going to enter social work. Or some of you do. I didn't, and a lot of people I talked to didn't. So let me tell you just quickly about my story. I grew up in Pontiac, Michigan, and I was Jewish in a community where there were very few Jewish people and very little diversity in general. Pontiac at that point was primarily a white Christian community. And one time I was playing at my friend Debbie Sibley's house, and it started to rain, and I said, you know, can we go inside your house? And she said, well, I gotta go ask my mom. And then she went and asked her mother. And she came back out and she said, no. I said, why not? And she said, well, my mom said because you killed Jesus. And, you know, I was like 7, 8. And I thought, oh, that's really weird. I probably didn't say that's really weird, but it was puzzling because I couldn't even remember hurting anybody, let alone killing someone. So I went home and we walked in, and my mother was on the phone, and I was crying and crying and crying. And she said, what's wrong? And I said, well, I couldn't go into Debbie's house because Debbie's mom said I killed Jesus. And so she hung up her conversation. I hadn't seen her hang up her phone that quickly since the time I brought a garter snake home in a milk box and it came out while she was on the phone. And at that point, she explained to me about anti-Semitism. And I knew at a young age that I had to make it different. So then I continued going through the Pontiac school system at a time when busing was getting started, and the Ku Klux Klan bombed the school buses in Pontiac. They were empty. And that was my first experience with racism. And then one day we went to Temple, and someone had drawn swastikas on the temple doors and on the windows, and broken into the temple where the ark is and carved a swastika in the door of the ark. I thought, okay, so bombing school buses, anti-Semitism, and then as I got a little bit older, at Christmas time, there were Christmas trees in our front yard, piled one on top of the other, in front of our door, so it was hard to get out. And then I woke up one night and the police were at the house, and I asked what had happened, and my mother said, well, your dad's really involved in the Anti-Defamation League, and someone had fired a gun and shot a bullet through my parents' bedroom window that became lodged between the glass panes. And then in high school, there were fights and knifings of black students during football games. And I remember one of my teachers, my study room teacher, study hall teacher, there was a student who was talking during class, and it was a student of color. And Mr. Haas opened the second story window, and literally he threw the kid out the second story window, and he landed, fortunately, in the bushes. And I couldn't take it anymore. And I organized, right, in high school, I organized a group of students of color and myself and some of the supportive Christian students. And we started working to change policy and to encourage acceptance. From that point, I went to college to become a physician, then learned that I was dyslexic and couldn't do math or chemistry. So I decided, okay, I'll major in psychology. So I majored in psychology. I applied for graduate school, didn't get in. One of my profs said, apply for social work. I said, I've never heard of it, but I'll apply for it. So I did, and I got accepted. And it was during the Vietnam War. And we didn't go to class much. We spent our time protesting the Vietnam War, taking over the administration building, supporting SDS, and it's like, wow, this kind of really fits with me. You don't go to classes, you protest. It's a profession that was meant for me. Unfortunately, some of the profs didn't see it that way, but we did, and that's what was important. So we missed a lot of classes, but we all passed because we were doing social work as action as opposed to academics. And I mean, that was such a time of feeling passionate. And then with the women's movement, we started advocating some more. And it was like, I really feel a niche here. So when I graduated, I thought, well, I'll get my PhD in counseling psychology. So I started a doctoral program, and then realized I was interested in community psych. So everybody else was getting their cognates in clinical, but me, who got mine in community psych. And everybody thought I was weird, and they're right, you know. So then I during that time, I got involved in domestic violence, and my doctoral dissertation was on domestic violence before anything had been written, which was great because it made for a very brief literature review. And, you know, there was like Del Martin's book. That was about it. And then before I completed my PhD, I thought, no, but I'm interested in healthcare, so I want to get a master's in public health. So while I was working my PhD, I got a master's in public health. And then realized when I was going through my MPH program that they were teaching the things that I had learned in social work a number of years earlier. So I graduated with everything and then decided, I wanted to do clinical work, but I was also passionate about activism. When I told my dad that I was becoming a social worker, he cried, not tears of joy, tears of distress, because he was sure I would starve, and that social workers didn't do much except during the Second World War, where they took food to people who were hungry. For some reason, that was not glamorous in my father's position, but I did it, and I've probably worked in every area of social work possible. And then, I got involved with a group. It's kind of a funny story, so please move beyond the language I'm about to use. I got involved with a punk rock group called the Crucifix. And they were protesting women who were being picked up on the streets of Lansing for doing street work. And so I joined them, not in the music, but we would go out at night and patrol the streets in Lansing. And then we thought, well, who else would be really good at joining us? And we decided, well, Nancy Humphreys, if anybody's heard of Nancy Humphreys, she was an amazing woman. She was the director of the School of Social Work at Michigan State. So Nancy and several of her graduate students joined us. And we would go out, and we'd hang out in the bars, and we'd talk to the women from about 10 at night to 2 in the morning. And I was also running a child sex abuse program, and I realized what a strong link there was between working the streets and child sex abuse. So we picketed, we went down to City Hall, we filibustered a meeting. The punk group, the Crucifix, had quite the presence about them. And we were very disruptive. It ended up in the city deciding to give some seed money to a teen center in Lansing. So we got this teen center going for runaway teens, which was pretty cool. And I realized that activism and advocacy were my passion, and that it went hand in hand with clinical work. So I could go on, which I won't, because Dwayne will start interrupting me. But let me tell you this, what do I want from all of you? Because you are the students receiving honors, and you are their families, and families and students need to work hand in hand. I want you to push the edges of the envelope. I don't want you to sit passively by. One voice may be not quite enough, but the number of voices in this room can make a difference. So you really need to push the edges of the envelope. And these are the times to do it, because right now we're seeing challenges to the Constitution. We're seeing the eradication of the middle class. We're seeing poverty growing, and we have a president who wants to do away with the existing Affordable Care Act. That doesn't mean I think the ACA is the best, but it's a start. Instead of improving it, we face it going away. Lead poisoning in Flint because of a governor who didn't see it, who didn't hear. We're seeing rural poverty grow, and I'm sure many of you are very aware of that. Farmers can barely hold on to their land. Public education is being eradicated. charter schools. We did this similar event last week at Western Michigan University in Grand Valley, and that's when I heard that Betsy DeVos had stopped funding to the Special Olympics. I find that amazingly tragic, and as social workers, we need to make a voice of that as well. Healthcare insurance is on the line, and I could tell you stories about that, but I don't want Dwayne to come up here because he's bigger than I am. So this is really a time that calls for social work. There are proposed changes in damages to women's health care with a lack of funding to Planned Parenthood. So what's the good news? You know, I get up here and I talk about racism, anti-Semitism. I didn't mention that I'm also an out lesbian, so homophobia is quite critical to me. I work a lot with the trans population, and transphobia is serious and critical. Being Jewish, I'm also struck by Islamophobia and how awful that hatred is. So what's the good news? Well, the good news is that you're all here tonight, and as social workers, you have the tools to make changes. You are prized social work students. You've achieved academic success while facing many of your own challenges, right? Yeah, who here hasn't faced a challenge? Social work is one of the fastest growing professions. If each professional takes a step, one step at a time, things change. Another quick story. In the 80s, when the first case of AIDS came to the Lansing area, there was a story in the news about a nurse named Sue Ellen Hosman who was treating the first person that Lansing had seen. So I called her, another man, Dope Bloss from the health department called her, and we started meeting, and we started pulling together volunteers. And today, that organization, and I need to tell you that the bylaws were written over margaritas at LS Teco. That organization now is Lansing Area AIDS Network. And that started because 3 of us came together and said, we've got to do something. So bring your voices together. Whether you're interested in clinical or macro, they go hand in hand. The policies you determine in macro social work impact the clients you see clinically. Don't ever forget that. Remember it. You're community organizers, regardless of whether you're clinical or macro. You guide people on their personal journeys, and there's not any relationship that's more intimate than walking hand in hand with someone on their personal journey. You've demonstrated with your skills and achievements, and by being the awardees, that you will practice social work as the art and skill that it is. It is an art and it is a skill. The goal of, regardless of where you practice and throughout your education, is to assure that the movements for civil rights and social justice continue. That is our responsibility. That stigma ceases to haunt the lives of the people you work with, and that hate crimes will stop. You need to work in those directions. Cesar Chavez said, once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. And you cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. It's our responsibility as social workers to remove the fear that silences people. By receiving this award, you've shown and proven yourselves to be leaders in the social justice movement. I want to thank you for the hard work you are doing. Know that NASW is here to work side by side with you as you work to correct the social challenges that exist. I, on behalf of NASW, congratulate you tonight and look forward to working with you now and in the future. As Jane Addams said, social advance depends as much upon the process through which it is secured as upon the result itself. Again, social advance depends as much on the process through which it is secured as upon the result itself. Thank you for not fearing to attempt the process that is so critical to the change we are seeking. Thank you. With that, I'll introduce Dwayne Brejak, the NASW Director of Membership and Membership Services.
Hi, everyone. I feel much better tonight. Oh, I barely had a voice last Thursday, so I'm glad it's back. We're so happy to be here with you all tonight. We'd like to thank our awardees, their friends, their family, and our faculty for being here. A special thanks to SVSU for hosting us here tonight. We can't do these awards without you, and we really appreciate your ongoing support throughout the year. So tonight marks one of my favorite times every year as an NASW staff because we really do get to see the excellence that's in our field and that's about to kind of sprout into our profession. It's already here, but you're about to take a next level very, very soon. Some of you probably got your countdown clocks going to graduation, right? You know how many days. But in social work, we aren't really that great about talking about ourselves a lot. We don't get the opportunity to be awarded and to really understand our accolades. So events like this are really important that we can honor those of us in our field, or those in our field who are doing amazing things. And we know that every school of social work here in the state has amazing faculty and students doing things in the communities that are really important to us. So the students that we're all going to meet tonight together are leaders both on campus and in their communities. You're going to hear stories about accomplishments in their personal life, in their professional life, in their soon-to-be professional life, and in their campus life. So kind of what this award is in general. So annually, one BSW and MSW student from every social work program in the state is nominated to receive the NASW-Michigan Student of the Year Award. NASW is the largest organization for social workers in the world, with more than 120,000 members across the United States. And we as an organization work to enhance the profession through creating standards, sound social policies, working on education and training opportunities, and finding ways for social workers to be better network with one another. I have recently started calling myself a social worker for social workers. That's my role at NASW, is helping you all as professionals find whatever you need in your professional career, and that's what we do as an organization, is figuring out, do you need support practically? Do you need information? Do you need advocacy? We want to have your back when you need it at that. And this award is going to honor the excellence for those, not just in practice, but community involvement and engagement on campus. So does anybody know how many social work students there are in Michigan? A lot. Yeah, there's about 6,500 social work students in Michigan. And so tonight you're going to meet 6, but total this year we're giving out 23 awards. So can we just give a quick round of applause to 23 of 6,500. And I'm sure all the students, you know some other amazing colleagues that you work with that are probably as deserving of getting honored, but you have been chosen to represent your cohorts, and so we hope you take that as an additional kind of badge of honor from your programs for being here today. And with that, Michigan is actually home to the third most social work students in the entire U.S. We have the most bachelor's level students of any state in the United States at 4,000 and about 2,500 MSW students. We have about 34 social work programs, 11 MSWs, and 23 or 24, it might even be a little bit more now, it fluctuates a little bit every year. With new MSW programs like SVSUs created, which we're always excited to have. So let's go ahead and get this ceremony underway. Kind of how tonight's going to work is we're going to bring up a representative from each of the schools of social work who's going to just do a brief introduction to their student, and then we invite the student to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself, talk about some work that you're doing, give some thanks. If you want to do some social justice plugs, this is your moment to use the couple minutes you got however you would like. So we all just want to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring up our first school, which is Central Michigan University.
Good evening. It is my great pleasure to represent Central Michigan University this afternoon. I had to arm wrestle several of the faculty, and some of them still swore that they were going to be coming anyway, but were unable to. So I'm actually here in four bodies and representing four bodies in our staff. So Morgan, you can know that. And my job tonight is to introduce to you our nominee for the Social Worker of the Year, Social Work Student of the Year. You have to wait to be the Social Worker of the Year. From Central Michigan University. And I'll be introducing Morgan McCarty. I met her 3 years ago when she came to our program office for advising. And I go through my routine of advising, and I ask the students, what do you want to do? And then Morgan lists off 5 or 6 different things that she's interested in doing, and said, I said, well, you got some choices to be making in the process. And so even from my initial interaction with her, I had the sense of her enthusiasm, the sense of her passion that she was going to embrace what it means to be a social worker. And that was the launch of our 3-year relationship. And in the second year, when she was preparing for her field instruction choices, I talked with her about her interviews with the Children's Action Network, which was her first assignment for possible field placements, and which I thought was going to be absolutely perfect for her because she is so devoted to children. But the agency didn't want her. I didn't say it that way. The agency wouldn't accept her because they had already identified in the interview that the skills that they would be able to offer her were things that she had already mastered. And she also would admit that in the process, she wanted to engage with kids, not just be interviewing them in a forensic way. She wanted to actually engage with them. And so her second choice and ultimate placement was with Bullock Schools. And in Bullock Schools is a high poverty area, and in particular, Morgan's assignment is with the elementary school children. And while she was there, she began a therapeutic group for fourth grade boys, which, anyone knows that any 4th grade boy needs therapy, just on the principle of being in 4th grade. But she was able to bring together groups of 4th grade boys, which no sane person does, and help them to learn how to interact with one another in ways that are socially acceptable, socially rewarding, and personally positive. And so when the social work faculty convene a meeting to start talking about who we would nominate, several students were mentioned, and we were charged to reflect upon it and to come back to our next faculty meeting. that's why I'm representing not just myself, but my colleagues. So Morgan was on my mind in that regard, in part because of her work with these fourth grade boys, but also because of her work as a student. So Morgan started off as a very challenging student because she was so thirsty for knowledge, but not so challenging that she was disruptive. And as a process of her challenging, she drew other students to her. And so then we have this very, very powerful senior class this year. And she's a good student, 3.77 GPA, and she's well liked by her peers, and she's a leader in the classroom and continuously challenging the faculty in positive ways. And so those were things that were really stuck out to me as reasons to nominate her, and other students had similar kinds of nominations. And then there was this critical moment where it really hit for me. I don't know about your areas, but in Mount Pleasant this last winter semester, we have had a record number of snow days, which initially were enjoyed and embraced with great joy. So as our students and as their field placements would slam the alarm clock off because they could sleep a few more hours, and the students were excused because the university was actually closed, they were excused from their field instruction setting. And so they had this extra day, and which was also true at public schools, that the schools themselves were closed. But Morgan went anyway. She went to her field instruction setting without the requirement of the university and without the requirement of the agency. But she went on her own conscience because she knew that many of the children in her school district depended on the care packages that go out on Friday afternoons. Many of the children that Morgan works with are so absolutely poor that they have continuous food insecurity. And so the family depends on the lunches, on the meal packages that the school sent home with the kids in their backpacks on Friday afternoons. And if the school is closed, there's no backpacks, which means that the kids and their families won't eat. Morgan did that on her own. She understood that her role with them was not just to make school be successful, but to see them in a larger context and to see them in families in a larger context. And so that was the story that I told my faculty. I said, everybody else was laughing it up because they got to sleep in. Morgan got in her car and she drove over roads that were ostensibly closed in order to prepare meals, backpacks, to deliver to the families. And when the families didn't have transportation of their own, she volunteered to take them there. And so this was the moment that switched us from, as a faculty, from good student, good social work, field student, but someone who steps up and understands their obligation as a professional, well, before being a professional. And so that was why, as a faculty, we voted for Morgan McCarty to be our nominee. So I'll invite you up. And I'll present her with this delightful piece of paper.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess I'll go first. So throughout my time at CMU, expressing kindness, advocating for peers, and generosity have been high on my list. And I've continued to express these skills as I move forward in my social work classes, and each year I've gained a little more appreciation for these three very simple tasks. And I'm thankful for the strength that I have expressed and confidence I have gained in myself while in this program. Although it has gone by so quickly, it has been everything but easy. In October of this past year, my fiance was killed in a car accident, and since then, life has just not been kind. But through this heartbreak, I have witnessed the importance of relationships with professors, friends, and my family. This time has showed me how important it is to be transparent and open with everyone around me, including my 4th grade boys. And as a social worker, transparency is so incredibly important to me, as it has been one of those words that I use a little too much. However, it allows for empowerment, honest conversation, and so much growth. These are skills I really hope to carry on as I continue in the field of social work. This year, I've also had the honor of being the president of Phi Alpha and have taken the time to set up agency visits for members to learn about the different areas of social work, because as I always say, social work's an umbrella. In October, our members went to the Kent County Head Start, where they spoke with an MSW faculty and learned all about what social workers in that agency do. In February, we went to the local homeless shelter, made and served dinner, and socialized with guests. And in March, we hosted a mixer on campus, which was a luncheon event that housed 7 different representatives from agencies within Isabella County, and they spoke about their passions and what they do as a social worker. And for the first year, I think we had a pretty good turnout. But throughout the school year, our main goal as this group has been to work on inclusion, networking, and of course, transparency. And although this year has been an extreme challenge, I'm so blessed to have experienced it with the greatest support. I would like to thank CMU faculty for pushing me not to give up when I really wanted to quit this year, my entire cohort for being the best family I could ask for, my field supervisor who has taught me to accept that some days we're just not gonna win, my family for pushing me to end this year as strongly as I can, and most importantly, the greatest guardian angel who has continued to find ways to support and cheer me on in this last lap. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. And somebody who doesn't know you but knows you tangentially through my own intern, I know how strong you've been and how much that strength has passed on to many people in your circle. So I don't know if you know that, but hopefully you know.
Thank you.
Now, Elizabeth. A little emotional already. Also, that's why I love these things too. Social work, we get to learn about each other, love each other, and support each other. So our next representative will be from Michigan State University. But before I bring them up, I just wanted to give some more little fun facts about social work programs here in Michigan. So can anybody tell me who the smallest social work program in Michigan belongs to? Any ideas? What's the answer?
Spring Arbor?
Spring Arbor.
Sorry.
Incorrect. Spring Arbor's actually, Spring Arbor's pretty big. See, no, but this is right. So we've got a lot of schools of social work in Michigan, and some of us never interact, or you may not. I mean, the list on tonight are pretty known schools, but we've got some schools that you might not have heard of: Kuyper College, Andrews University, the University of Detroit Mercy is actually our smallest program. They have about 8 in a class. So when you think you're small, sometimes. But then we've got some of the bigger programs, which I think SVSU is one of the bigger cohorts, several hundred in a class. Eastern has, Spring Arbor's got quite a big cohort. MSU's got some big cohorts there. So we've got a very large range of who we're bringing into social work. And so hopefully you all as students too, this is a really good opportunity to start to expand your social work network. Who are those folks, not just on your campus, but in your social work community? Because really, very soon, we're all going to be colleagues. So how can we lean on each other and learn from each other the best as possible? But with that, we'll bring up our representative from Michigan State.
Thank you. Close up to that. I'm so excited to be able to address all of you and to be able to share about our amazing student who has just resonated with me from the very moment that I met her at a recruitment table at Open University. So I'm so excited because she has been an incredible force since day one. bringing the legacy that she learned from Oakland and then continuing to expound on that at Michigan State. Everywhere I go, whether it's Phi Alpha meetings or it's just advocacy events, Ray is there, showing up, being exuberant, and living our values as social workers. Like I said, when I remember meeting her and doing recruitment, you meet a lot of different people, and you don't always remember exact details about the people. But I remember the exact shirt even that Ray was wearing, and it was an advocacy shirt for breastfeeding. And it was so amazing because she's shown from that very moment her passion for advocacy and fighting for social justice. And that has never stopped from that day on my table. And I was so honored that we were able to nominate her out of all of the students at all of our campuses. And so we have campuses in East Lansing. We have a statewide blended option. We have a weekend option. We have students in Flint and Oakland and now in Clio. And it was so exciting to have an off-campus student shine so brightly that all of the different campuses knew who she was. It wasn't a matter of, oh, I know her because I see her all the time on main campus. It's, I know Ray because she's everywhere. And she makes a difference in all these places. She was involved in our homelessness and housing insecurity, food insecurity at campus, being an advocate, showing up and helping to provide resources. And she is so passionate about this work that she was instrumental in finding the pantry at Oakland and has been working there as part of her internship. I got the pleasure of actually going and seeing this pantry last week. She invited me to come see her when I was on Oakland's campus. And I expected it to be a room with food, but it wasn't just a room with food. It was a room filled with passion and joy, and students sitting on the floor and sitting on shelving in every little corner, packing things together, ready to fill out cards to share the message and inspire students who were struggling. So not only does she meet people in their need, but she inspires students to show up. She inspires people outside of social work to show up. As I'm sitting here this afternoon talking to her, if I don't have enough stories up until this moment, she's explaining to me about the spring extravaganza that she planned through the Golden Pantry at Oakland. And this was an event that she brought in Phi Alpha, and Phi Alpha collected food items and cards and did that. Then she also brought in Oakland students, and so she's engaging multiple universities to meet the students' needs at her internship and in her community. And she told me that she planned this morning 3 to 4 hours to set up these bags to hand out to students in need, and it took her 15 minutes because so many students she inspired to show up to fill bags. And that's why we wanted to recognize you, Ray, because you get people to show up and to want to live the mission and values of social work.
I told her I wasn't gonna cry.
Better.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Erin, for those kind words. Thank you to Michigan State School of Social Work, the Graduate Office, and NASW for recognizing my achievements in the classroom and in the community. Now, if you would have told me 16 years ago that I would be standing amongst professionals and elite social workers, I would have laughed. I would have laughed hysterically, mainly because I was leaving Michigan State after 5 semesters with a 1.6 GPA. My major was accounting. That's a story for another day. But I felt defeated, and I felt like it wasn't my time. Maybe it will never be my time. But I've had some amazing family and friends who supported me through 15 years of getting my BSW, with 3 children. My 2 children on spring break, they're in Canton, living it up. They supported me in my dreams, no matter what. And if I could leave you with anything today, it would be that your current situation is not your outcome. Now, I remember Erin and at that recruitment table. And just her presence alone really felt like I was at home with MSU. Each class that I went to, in the back of my mind, I thought about that day that I left Michigan State with that 1.6 GPA, and I carried that to each classroom. And I experienced some challenges along the way in grad school. I remember getting my first 0 on a paper, all because I missed step 8 in the instructions. Thankfully, I was able to rewrite, but it was my first 0 in my entire higher ed career. I'd never seen that before. I was taken aback, I cried, I ate ice cream and binge watched some Netflix because I was just in my feelings. But then I remembered that 1.6 GPA and how I felt when I left that campus. And I said, not today. And I took some deep breaths. I remember what I learned in my very first class in grad school, the self-care class, which is amazing. And I started practicing self-compassion, self-love, self-care. And grad school at Michigan State has been amazing. The way they supported me, my dreams. My internship wasn't even supposed to be. I remember asking them, like, look, I want to open a food pantry at OU. I am macro, so it's right up my alley, and they're like, you kind of, talked about criminal justice, maybe you should go that route. I'm like, I want to do this. And they supported me. Aaron, Julie, they all supported me and my dream and whatever it took to get it done. So I'm so thankful, I'm so appreciative for the love that I get. I hope to see you all in the near and distant future. If I could plug anything for social justice, it would be food insecurity and basic needs insecurities in higher ed. It is a real issue, and actually, before I opened the pantry, I visited SVSU's pantry, and it was ran by a social worker, and just his passion as well, like, it really just put that passion, that fire, and that drive in me. So I appreciate all of you, and to everyone else, if I don't see you tonight, congratulations. Thank you very much, NASW, again, and I hope you have a fantastic evening.
Yeah, I would just like to echo kind of both what Raenece and Aaron were saying. Thank you for showing up. Because it's not easy to show up. And there are days where you just should not show up. You do. But it radiates. And people know when you're passionate. It just beams through. And we need more people that just show up, because it will inspire the next generation of people to also be pulled into that circle. And we need lots of people in those circles right now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue on. I did want to mention at the end, I do have goodie bags for everybody, so make sure you get one of those, and then we're going to get a group picture at the end as well. But let's bring up our host school, SVSU.
Hello, my name is Michael Heron, and I'm faculty in our social work department. Everyone else did a really good job of just kind of standing around and talking off the top of their head, so thanks. I already introduced myself. Oh, right. I'm here to introduce Saginaw Valley State University's NASW Student of the Year for our BSW program. The student I'm about to introduce has worn many hats in her life. She is a wife, a daughter, a mother of 4 children, a student, a member of the Social Work Phi Alpha Honor Society and National Society of Leadership and Success. She's worked in healthcare as a medical assistant, and she's worked as a library assistant, helping people in her community attain knowledge, and it is often overlooked with public libraries, making connections to local agencies for the people in the community. These experiences led this student to seek out her associate's degree at Delta College and then come here to pursue her bachelor's of social work. I met this student about 2 years ago in an elective class that I was teaching, and it was obvious that she was committed to helping others and to the profession or calling of social work. She always attended class. Her papers were very thoughtful and well written, and researched. She also dreaded being called on or giving any form of presentation. She was an expert, and when I would be teaching class and ask a question, she always kept eye contact until I asked a question. And then something was very important in her notes that she was going to be able to find as soon as someone else answered the question. You guys seem to know what I'm talking about. So yeah. But this is far from the case now. The personal growth of this student has been exceptional. 2 years later, she still hands in excellent work, but now regularly provides thoughtful and creative insights in class. She is a skilled presenter and has made her ability to teach skills and provide trainings as one of the hallmarks of her field education. But this award is more than just about her growth as a student. She works incredibly well with people, especially with young people in need of guidance. She is a role model for her classmates and a role model for anyone who wishes to become a social worker. Lastly, her commitment to helping people, she has not forgotten her roots in helping the community. This past November, during election season, she took it upon herself to post flyers all over her community in Saginaw, and advertising that if anyone needed a ride to the polls, she had taken the day off to drive anyone who needed a ride so that they would be able to vote. When she did this, she took her children with her because she talked about it in class, but she didn't do this for class. She didn't do this for work, she didn't do this for field. She did this because that's what it is to be part of a community. And she did it because she was living up to what our code of ethics says. She also did this so that she could show her children and her neighbors that it is important to act what you say you believe. It is my honor to introduce a role model, a leader, and a fellow social worker, Saginaw Valley State University NASW Student of the Year for the BSW program, Latrice Robbins.
It is truly an honor to stand before you all today. Wow. I don't think I can say anything behind what you said, Dr. Heeran. I want to expound just a little bit on where my field placement is. There's one I've worked on many projects there, but there's one thing that I worked on that I'm really truly proud of, so I decided to share it today. My current placement is at the Youth Protection Council in Saginaw County. I've had the opportunity since August to work with various programs. I've worked with our drug prevention area. I've worked with our homeless shelter. I've worked with Healthy Families of America, working with young moms and their children. I have worked with Birth at 5. I've worked with Early Head Start. I've worked with Rapid Rehousing Youth. It's a homeless program that we have in place to reduce the homelessness of our young people. While at the Youth Protection Council, I went through the various programs and just kind of evaluated things and see where change could take place. Where could I step in and promote change in one of those programs? One of the programs that stuck out to me was the Rapid Rehousing Youth Program, and we call it RRY. So while I'm talking, I won't say the whole thing, I'll just say RRY. I was working, one thing about the RRY program is they had a high turnover for homeless. And this program is geared towards individuals and families from ages 18 to 24. And what it does is if they're in a shelter or under the state of Michigan, if they if they fall under the qualifications for being homeless in that age group, we provide rental assistance for them up to 2 years. But what was happening with the program is a lot of the young people were leaving the program and they were going back into homelessness after the 2 years, and I went over the program again, and I said, something is not right. This is an awesome program, and it has to be a reason why they're going back into homelessness. Why are they not able to sustain themselves after we pay their rent for 2 years? So over at one of the other centers, shelters that I did group at, we used the KC Life Skills curriculum over there, teaching the young moms about money management, about home management, budgeting. We taught them how to cook over there, interviewing skills, resume skills, how to dress when you go to a resume, how to obtain a place to stay and how to keep that place that you're staying in. And it dawned on me after we did the pre-test, and then after the program we did a post-test, and then we did an evaluation where they evaluated how did the group go for them, what did they learn, what they didn't know before group, and then after the group was done, what did they learn, what were they more knowledgeable about. And it dawned on me, this is what RRY needs. This is what it's missing. So at the time I was taking a policy class, and I had to look into the agency and see if I could implement a new policy or if there was already a policy in place that needed some changes to it. And I chose RRY because I knew that the young people in this program could benefit from this KC Life Skills. As a field student, in my head I'm thinking, okay, my professors have given me these tools and I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna follow these steps and go through these steps to try to implement this new policy into this program to where the RRY families and individuals have access to this. They're able to get this just like we did at the shelter. So I'm thinking, okay, I have all of my stuff in order. I followed all of the steps, and I'm gonna go and I'm going to present this. So before that, I talked about it, but it didn't seem like it was, doing anything. No one was moving. So I emailed my field instructor and I let her know I wanted to meet with her concerning the policy that I had been talking about. We were in her office for probably about an hour. I presented to her the research, the evidence-based research that I had found on the KC Life Skills, the benefits of the KC Life Skills curriculum. And she says, Latrice, I think this is amazing. And she said, there's just a few things that I want you to change about it. And she says, not only do I want the RRY program to have this, but there's other agencies that are under our umbrella that I want to have access to it too. So she says, when you get all of this together and make a copy for this program, I want you to make it for these other 3 programs as well. So I was so excited when I left her office. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm just a field student. And in my head, I'm thinking, they're like, okay, this is just a field student. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just here for a short period of time. But that wasn't the case for me. So I emailed my professor and I told him, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to come to class next week and tell you what just happened. So he was like, I'm excited, Latrice, and I can't wait to hear. But today, there's an assessment, a pre-assessment. Any homeless youth that comes into the RRY program, it's a pre-assessment. And they're basically saying, this is what I'm knowledgeable of, this is what I'm not knowledgeable of, this is what I want to know more of. And their case manager goes out to their home to meet with them twice a month, and they're working with them on those things out of that curriculum. So that way, when they come out of the program, after the 2 years is up, when we're no longer paying their rent, they have those basic life skills to be able to sustain themselves past the program. So that is something that one of my accomplishments that I was really, really proud of that I wanted to share with you all today. And before I sit down, I just want to say thank you to my husband for, it's going on 17 years. Thank you. I really appreciate you. I thank you for standing beside me and sustaining our family financially while I took off to work to pursue this degree. I didn't realize it was going to take me this long. I started at Delta in 2012, and I came here in 2016. I graduate next month, and I go right into the master's program. My children are not here, but I also want to say thank you to my children as well for the times that I've had to leave home to come out to campus to study, and they really wanted my time. For the times that I was locked up in my room trying to study and write papers, and they're like, "Mom, are you done yet?" They would knock on my door like seven to 10 times, and I was like, okay, let me just close the laptop down, close the books, and okay, you got me. So I am very grateful because they have hung in there with me. To my parents, I just want to say I appreciate you all. I really do. It is always a child's dream to make their parents proud. And I do believe that I have accomplished that. You all tell me all the time, you know, how proud of me you are, and you have encouraged me along the way. And I truly, truly appreciate that. I thank you. Thank you so much. To my professors, thank you for all of your encouragement along the way, responding back to my emails, giving me advice, allowing me to come into your office, and just pouring into me wisdom about whatever it was that I came into your office about. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I wish all of my professors were here, but I do. I appreciate each and every one of you. You all are awesome. And you're genuine. That's what I can say about, I'm gonna brag on my professors. They're genuine, and I can feel it. Every time I've had an encounter with them, it's coming from your heart. It's not that I'm getting paid to do this, it's coming from their heart. You all really care about your students, and you care that we have the tools that we need to go out into the field and be the best social workers that we can be. And last but not least, due to my beliefs, I have to give honor to God. I cannot come up here and say thank you to everybody without saying thank you to God. So, thank you.
Well, I just got an extra bonus knowing that Latrice will be in my class next year. Thank you. I'm Mark Giesler. I'm also faculty here at Saginaw Valley. Welcome to our campus. I'm glad you're here. I am part of the faculty for the newly graduating this year master's program at Saginaw Valley. So it's an honor to represent my other faculty colleagues. But I'm here really to honor Robin Greiner, who is our nominee for the MSW program at Saginaw Valley. Robin has a long history at SVSU, and that's not a comment on her age. I remember sitting in a meeting when we were forming this program, this MSW program, that very few of us really knew much about or what we were doing. And I remember sitting in a very early meeting, and one of my colleagues said, "Robin Greiner is coming back to get her master's." I have no frame of reference because Robin graduated from our program as a VSW long before I began teaching at Saginaw Valley. So, Robin was just another name. It didn't take me long to realize exactly what my colleague was talking about. So here we are ready to graduate our first cohort at Saginaw Valley in the master's program. And it's my honor to share with you a few accomplishments, and only a few in the interest of time, that Robin has made. In her day job, she has worked tirelessly as the shelter coordinator at Shelter House in Midland. It's a domestic and sexual violence shelter. And what she's done there, and it didn't take me long to realize that when she was in my class, has been nothing short of amazing. She participated as a member of the leadership team in developing a strategic plan for Shelter House, particularly working on the mission statement and actually spearheading a construction effort to move away from communal living and toward separate units, efficiency apartments, which in essence really fostered a collaborative work environment and still provided a safe space for advocates at the shelter. She conducted extensive research regarding best practices for transitional support housing programs for DV and substance abuse agencies, and actually co-wrote an Office of Violence Against Women grant for $450,000. She is very active in the community as a representative of our profession. So when I heard Max earlier talk about this intersection between macro and micro, it really struck me to reflect on the fact that Robin's macro work and micro work are intertwined seamlessly and in very profound ways. So she currently advocates for survivors of domestic violence as a member of a subcommittee of the Balance of State Continuum of Care in Midland, and there are other accomplishments that perhaps she'll share. I do want to share a little bit more about sort of what she has done for our program. You know, we talk a lot about our students sort of going forth and representing our profession and representing our institutions. But it strikes me, and this is no exaggeration, that Robin has made an imprint on Saginaw Valley's master's program that's going to live long after she's gone. One of the ways she's doing that is she actually her agency will be the basis, or has been, the basis of a research project that a group of our students has used for what we call their thesis. So the project is actually establishing a working protocol that will guide practice on how empowerment can be implemented in domestic and sexual violence agencies. So by bringing that expertise to our program, she's giving back to her program. Let me share with you, because it's just not me, a few words of my faculty colleagues when asked about Robin's accomplishments. One faculty member said of her work on that project, the research project, she has served as a mentor to other students in her research group, modeling exemplary professionalism, professional curiosity, and excitement in boundary setting. Another faculty member said, throughout her tenure in the program here, Robin has demonstrated an extraordinary curiosity, there's a theme there, and deserves to grow as a professional, specifically seeking to learn how to better integrate evidence-based scholarship into her practice. Another faculty member, she takes every assignment seriously and always engages the content with a great deal of critical thought. Robin is continuously asking for constructive feedback to make improvements. She's supportive of her classmates, and she's done a great deal of work and shared her lived experiences with intention. It is clear that she is here to learn and take everything that our program has to offer into her career. So, fast forward from that first meeting when I heard Robin's name and didn't know anything about her. It's really an honor to share with you her accomplishments. As you can see from just a bit of her story, not only does she exemplify all that NASW calls for in terms of service and integrity, but she has made a real difference in shaping the culture of our program. Robin, great.
So many themes I hear throughout everybody talking. Interesting that you said what got you into social work. Maybe you're born into it. And, mine started in 7th grade in a gym class. In that gym class, back when I was in gym, you know, they let the most athletic, jerkiest
boys be the captains, and then you would split up, and it was just this archaic torture for anybody who couldn't kick a ball or something. But in middle school, I kind of had become an athlete. I didn't know it was. When I was little, it just meant I could fight and not get beat up. When you're in middle school, you get to become an athlete with that. But I wasn't the captain, because maybe I wasn't a jerk, but I was chosen like first or second choice. And I had decided that there was a gal I watched all the time that was always the last person. And she wasn't even chosen. She was always just the last person. They wouldn't even say her name because they didn't have to. She would just walk over and join the team that didn't choose her but was left with her. And I had decided I'm going to make sure she's not the last person. Now, I was still not totally evolved, so I wasn't going to pick her like next, but I was going to pick her soon. And so I chose, well, there we go. So I made sure that she wasn't left to be last. And when I saw that look on her face, and maybe the shoulders weren't as droopy, and maybe she was just a little taller, she was shocked, first of all, that her name was said and that she was chosen. But when I watched that, I thought, okay, I have a little bit of power, and I'm going to use that power to make a difference. And that's when my social work life, I didn't know what social workers were. I didn't, we won't say what year that was, because that was even though Jane Addams, Dr. Dedman has told, that it's been started for lots of years, but I didn't know what a social worker was at that time. But that was the beginning for me. And now, my circumstances have changed. I've gotten a little older since that 1980 something, and but my life hasn't changed. I still am trying to make a difference and trying to empower others around me. And I hate to correct you, Dr. Giesler, but I didn't graduate from SVSU. I graduated from the Ohio State University, so I apologize.
Still knew you.
Well, I supervise BSW students. From the very first year, Kim Bruce, who's my supervisor, who's here tonight, I was such a new advocate at Shelter House, and she said, we've got a student, and I matched her with you. I learned more from her because she worked at DHHS than she learned from me, I'm sure, but we learned from one another, and so I've been supervising students for 10 years. So, so I went to Ohio State University, and I wanted to get my MSW, but moving here to Michigan from Ohio, it was really hard. I'd go visit the MSU program. I think I can do it. I can't do it. I looked at U of M. They're ranked so high, and I'm like, I can't do it. And so as soon as SVSU offered their program, I was just so appreciative of that program, and also knowing the BSW students so well, and just what kind of caliber student they bring up. I knew I wanted to be a part of that. Now, and it was time, not just because SVSU for their program, but similar to, I didn't bring the bulletin up, sharing her story of losing a loved one. That happened to our family. About 3 years ago, we lost our son, and he was killed by a drunk driver, and that just changed our lives, our family's life forever. And the University of North Carolina, Charlotte has coined the term post-traumatic growth. And I heard it in what you're saying today. There's 5 areas that you can grow with post-traumatic growth. And I've had the privilege of growing in each one of those. But the one that was, and I hope I get it right because it's down on the floor now, but it said, if you've lived through this, you can do anything. And so, you've lived through that, you can do anything. And that's kind of what got you through this year, and it's going to carry you on. But it carried me into that program, and I knew it was time. I knew it was time to get that MSW. And I've been so grateful because, and I'm sorry, but in my arrogance, I just even remember standing up like on one of the first days, I said, well, I pretty much just need to get the degree. I'm already doing an MSW job. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I sounded more humble than that, but that's how I felt in my heart. I was just getting some letters behind my name, and it didn't take long, maybe like the first week. Dr. Dedman moved her schedule around so I could do something in Chicago, one of our immersion trips, and it took like 2 minutes to know that I wasn't in here just to get a couple letters behind my name. Well, I guess there's 3. Well, eventually there'll be an L in front of there. But I was just so, it just became so engaged, and reading the NASW Code of Ethics, and matching that with my faith, and I was just like, I felt like, I shared that with Kim. I'm like, I felt like I do devotions every time I read the NASW Code of Ethics. It spoke to my soul in such a way that I just knew that, again, this renewed passion. That first year of the MSW program, I felt like I was at a seminar every Friday. And everybody else was just so tired, because the first year we went from 8:30 a.m. to 8 at night, and everybody else was like, oh, I just hate it. I'm like, oh, I just think this is the best, because it was just nurturing my soul, and I just loved that. And so, although the papers I didn't love, because I hadn't written a paper in 25 years. So, and even then, I'm sure if I looked at those BSW papers, they were not good. So, those were excruciating for me. So, so what I got from this program, what I got from getting, almost getting, I got a few more weeks of this MSW, is I learned how to learn, and I think that's going to serve all of us when we went through this program. When you learn how to learn, it's going to carry us on, and I learned to value my husband. It was already in the notes, so when you thank your husband, he's like, you know, like when you're thanking people, yeah. So it was already in the notes. He got to know, he will get to know me again without a computer or without a book in front of me. Hold on, she'll be done in a year, so you'll be okay. My coworkers that really did pick up a lot of slack with me cutting down my hours this final year, and tolerating me when I didn't get a good grade or when I did get a good grade, whatever it was, I would want to talk to them. One person who did graduate from SVSU, I feel like she's gotten a second MSW because I've had to make her live through my assignments as I give them verbatim to them. So maybe it's not that bad. But so I'm so excited to be a part of that first inaugural class of SVSU's MSW, and I really appreciate this honor. So.
You're all pretty amazing. Feeling good. Everybody feeling good. It's like, I don't know how you've all felt it at that moment, whether it's in your social work career. Mine was my first day of my MSW orientation room. You just know you're in the right room with the right people. And social workers, we need to be in more rooms with each other so we can feel that goodness. Our jobs are hard. We deal with a lot of stuff. And the more we can be together and just bask in this energy, I love it. Latrice said something that I hear a lot on the road at NASW from students is, I'm just a student. Or that mentality that, I'm not a professional yet. What do I have to give? And I mean, the stories just so far tonight, how you're impacting lives is, it's incredible. You're changing lives of the students at your school by just being there that extra day, and their families by allowing them to eat over the weekend. Or you're changing lives of the students on a campus you don't even attend anymore. Really. Or you're going in and you're changing your agency's policy so that their future programs are completely different, and that your whole community is probably going to be changed because of that. Your students doing that. And I know the faculties are just beaming. I can feel it. You're feeling great. And we as your profession feel amazing because we know that you're ready. You may not feel it yet, but based off of the work that you're doing, we want you there. We're ready for you to be in the field with us, pulling those people with you. We're ready. So with that, we're going to hear from our next amazing students from Spring Arbor University.
Hi, my name is Janelle Phillips, and I'm the academic advisor for the social work department at Spring Arbor University. So have BSW on campus, BSW online, and our MSW students. So when we decided to nominate someone, it was unanimous. There was no question that Joy was our selection. So all the faculty affirmed that, as well as our director, as well as myself. She has stood out to all of us throughout her time at Spring Arbor. And if I get emotional, I'm very sorry. Oh, this kind of setting does that. I've cried at all your things so far. But I came onto campus about a year last January. And in my interview, they had told me, listen, I want to let you know that the students, they love their advisor. You're not going to come in, they're not happy about her transitioning out. You know, how do you deal with people who aren't going to like you right away? And so it was very intimidating to come in. So I had, you know, this idea of how that was going to look like. And Joy was the first person I met. She worked in our office, and she was so excited and so welcoming. And that transition from then on was just really, it changed my perspective of the student bodies and their ability to be okay with change, which is what we're all about. We want change to happen. So she has been a gift to the department and to myself. So Joy is, as I said, she's on our main campus. She's a BSW student. She's got a heart for serving others. She really exemplifies what we're looking for in a social work student. So she is passionate about her work with vulnerable people, diligent in her schoolwork, her volunteer work. She works with Action Jackson. She's the lead of that. And she has, it's a group that serves youth in Jackson County. In that role, and I had my colleague supervises her in that role, so I had her write this down. So she has been the student leader of Action Jackson, a group serving the youth of Jackson County. In that role, she dedicates countless hours of her time to coordinate college students to serve as mentors to the youth that enroll in the program. She meets with families and children to set up the mentoring relationships and feedback from those in leadership over her. So for me, what I have seen with her within the Spring Arbor community is just her passion for the LGBT community. And we are, as probably most, if not all of you know, that we're a small, very conservative Christian college, and that has not deterred her from advocating, from really helping. Her senior project is to create an educational presentation to help other Spring Arbor students understand what the LGBT community at Spring Arbor feels like, what their experience has been, and really just helping because of what I believe, like her passion and her work. We have had conversations that we've been able to bring in different people. The president has had to listen, and just it's been a real pleasure to watch that because it could be deterring, and it could, you know, when you're going up against a school and certain values, it's hard to advocate, but just yes, you're coming from what a lot of people believe in, and how do you change that mindset. So Joy has been really an inspiration there. So I've had the privilege of watching her over the last year and a half grow as a student and a leader. So I'd like to introduce Joy Jennings.
Forgot my notes. Guys, the emotions. Wow. All right. Put that down. Oh, hi, everybody. Wow, it is such an honor to be here. When I heard that I was nominated, I literally was at my internship and I saw the email and I just started like crying a little bit because I'm just so honored to be able to represent Spring Arbor and our social work program. It's definitely been a journey as I've gone through college. I started out my college journey, I didn't even know what social work was. I came in a homeschooled, very sheltered, smiling girl onto my college campus, and I was able to learn about what social work was through the department. I was like, wow, that sounds like something I want to do, and I didn't even know what it was. So I went into it, and I just really grew to love it. I came in with a desire to learn that my mom and instilled in me. And I'm very thankful first off to her for just giving me the love of people and the love of learning. So throughout college, I've had a lot of learning experiences. It started off with just having conversations with people. With my background, I didn't have much background in diversity or like people who were just different from myself and those I've been around. So as I began my college experience, I had intentional conversations with people. And one thing that I was able to do with those conversations was I created an Instagram page where I featured people on our campus who just were not what you'd see as the norm for our school, but I was able to feature them. And through that, I sat down with them and I talked with them and heard their stories. Wow, when you really listen to people's stories, they can be inspiring, heartbreaking, just so influential to me, and I was excited to be able to share those with others. And then through my classes, I've just had so many great professors who have invested in me and truly spoken into my life. They saw I had a passion, but I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the experiences, and I've had just professors who have shared their stories and professors who have given me the ability to be able to see others and be able to see the complete value of their humanity. Showed me self-examination, learned how to problem solve. So I'm thankful for them for starting me into this profession and stretching me as I've gone through it. Through my time on campus, I have been involved, as she mentioned, the mentoring program. I'd love to be able to engage in that and be able to build the program more and provide for the children mentors who need it in the Jackson community. And then more recently, as she mentioned, I've been really trying to be a support to the LGBT community. It's been a hard time because our campus, with the background that we have, can be difficult, but interpersonally, I've really tried to reach out to students and support them, but also we've been able to have educational public awareness things, teach about mental health for LGBTQ and why we need to support, even if you don't agree, we need to support them in our common humanity and love them. And so that's been something that I've been very passionate about, even in just this last year as I've come to learn about it, and even gone to the Allied Social Workers event and been able to learn about the importance of advocating for that population. So I'm thankful for just the opportunities that I've had in that, to be able to speak into that. So I have some outward accomplishments, but honestly, I'm just really proud of myself for being able to grow into someone that sees the beauty and the differences that we have. And as I've read the Code of Ethics, and especially the dignity worth of the person and the importance of human relationships, guys, that's so important to fuel our work. And we just need to keep doing that. And as we talk to people, hearing them and not being afraid to change what we see, how we see the world based on people's stories. So I'm really grateful. Thank you guys all for listening to me, and I hope you have a wonderful night as we move on.
More. We're sadly on to our last award of the night. But I, again, just want to thank you all for sharing about yourselves. I hope that as you go throughout your career that you will help us as your organization to be able to better share our stories as practitioners, to be able to better share what you're doing, what you need, what sort of support we might be able to help politically, because we're all intertwined in a profession and we're only as good as you all are on the ground, and we want to make sure that those voices are amplified as best as possible. But with that, I'd like to bring up our final award recipient. Angela, feel free to start headed up this way. Unfortunately, our representatives from the University of Michigan Flint could not make it out tonight, but I do have Angela, our award winner here, who is going to do a wonderful job of talking a bit about yourself. So we would like to congratulate Angela.
So, I wonder what my teachers would have said as they came up here. Because when I got this award, I was like, is this junk mail from so I have a job as a peer educator for the Center of Gender and Sexuality at U of M Flint. And I found my voice and a way to have conflict with civility, and it turned me into a monster. And like, I didn't know if I was getting kicked out of the program at sometimes because I couldn't shut down the advocacy.
Yay.
Yeah, yes. No, we very similar populations we work with. When I started my journey on social work, there was a good chance that I would have gone the 4 years and we would have pumped out another white, cisgender social worker right out. You know, that little. But then I had some classes, and then I started to look around, and I'm like, no, I can't be that white lady. I won't be that white lady. No. So I started, my first internship was at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Flint, where not only did I learn how to hit dumb folks and kind of dab, but they told me don't do that. I learned to check my privilege and check it every single day. And I did. And we had a lot of fun. And I couldn't continue on. They hired me in when I started interning at Wellness Services Incorporated in Flint, Michigan, working with the HIV, the people living with HIV. And we do a needle exchange there. We do harm reduction there. And I learned by working with the most vulnerable of vulnerable populations that not only do I have to check my privilege, but I need to use it because it is unacceptable how we treat other human beings. And so then that happened, and I think I probably became more of a monster. They hired me. They were like, it's a whole building full of memes. It's crazy. My boss is like, they see wellness coming, and they're like, oh God, check our statistics, because they know them. So that was, I guess that's my journey. Outspoken, scholarly, I understand the research, and then I try really hard to put it in practice. And I have the hard conversations. I try my best to see humanity in every single person that I look at every single day. And when I saw, much like people have talked about with the Code of Ethics, I knew in my core that that aligns. And so that's me.
So I think it's pretty clear at this point that you're all a bunch of rabble rousers. Love it. Not a lot of no's taken for answers in this room, and that's good. We need people who are going to keep pushing the boundaries, whether that's at your school or at your agencies or at your university, sometimes at home. You know, I'm sure we've all pushed some buttons going through our social work careers. We thank everybody in the room who's allowed us to push some buttons and probably pushed them right on back when needed. We just wrapped up Social Work Month at March, and this year's theme was Elevate Social Work. And I can't really think of a better way to start the next year of social work, but with this kind of celebration. So thank you all for helping elevate our field to that next place. That completes kind of our formal ceremony. So I'd like to take the students, if you'll come up, we'll get a picture, we'll get you goodie bags. Please network with one another. I know there's like everybody I kind of want to get to know a little bit better. Get some snacks, and we've got the room for a little bit longer. So let's just go ahead and enjoy the rest of the night. And thank you all for coming out. And thanks for our Facebook fans.